Beloved students of class 11, today I will talk about consumers equilibrium in case of single commodity as developed by Professor Marshall, an eminent classical economist. Marshall developed this utility theory to explain consumers equilibrium, and this is based on some important assumptions. First, you have to know what is meant by consumers equilibrium. Consumers equilibrium refers to the situation when consumer gets maximum satisfaction from the commodity, and if it is attained, he should have no tendency to make any change in his level of consumption. So consumer's equilibrium means maximum satisfaction derived by the consumer, and consumer will not change his level of consumption if it is attained. This concept of consumer's equilibrium in case of single commodity based on some important assumptions. Assumption number 1, consumer is rational and always motivated to maximize his satisfaction. Assumption number 1. Assumption number 2 is a very important assumption by Professor Marshall. Utility is measured by some cardinal numbers. Although utility is a subjective term, but here it is being measured by some cardinal numbers. And these cardinal numbers are coming observing the money spent on the commodity. Assumption number 2. Next, assumption number 3. This is also very important assumption and highly criticized this assumption also. Third assumption is marginal utility of money is assumed to be constant. Marginal utility of money means what? Utility from 1 rupee. Or in other words, utility lost by spending rupee 1 is marginal utility of money. Marginal utility of money assumed to be constant. That means whatever be the level of income, it is equally painful for the consumer to spend rupee 1. Always it is same. Actually, it is very much controversial. Actually, it doesn't happen. In different level of income, utility of money differs. But why Marshall assumed marginal utility of money is constant? He assumed marginal utility of money is constant because money is here the measuring rod of utility. Utility is being measured in terms of money. Measuring rod must not be flexible. If one measuring rod gives a reading about your height, that you are 5 feet, and after some time same measuring rod gives a reading you are 3 feet, your height is 3 feet, then will you accept that measuring rod? This flexible measuring rod will never be accepted. Measuring rod must be rigid. Measuring rod must be fixed. Here money is the measuring rod. Utility measured in terms of money. Money is the measuring rod. So marginal utility of money assumed as constant. This is very important assumption. Next assumption, price of the commodity and income of the consumer is also assumed to be constant. And at last, another important assumption must be mentioned, that utility derived from a commodity depends on that commodity only. It is not depending on any other commodity. On the basis of these assumptions, Marshall explained consumers' equilibrium. And he said there are two conditions of consumers' equilibrium. Equilibrium condition number one, diminishing marginal utility. We all know it well. It is law of diminishing marginal utility. So for developing this theory, it is essential. Marginal utility is diminishing. We know it well. It is well accomplished fact. If you are repeatedly consuming a commodity, capacity of the commodity to satisfy your want gradually declines. Intensity of desire declines if you consume more and more units of same commodity. So there is nothing wrong if we say marginal utility is diminishing, and this is condition number one. Second condition for equilibrium, marginal utility must be equal to MDU, means marginal disutility. This is very important condition. Marginal utility must be equal to marginal disutility. Marginal utility means what? Marginal utility is the utility derived consuming 1 unit of a commodity. And when consumer is consuming one commodity, it is not that he is only gaining utility. He is also losing some utility. These two things are happening simultaneously. You may ask question, if we consume one commodity, certainly we will get some satisfaction and there is marginal utility. But where from this dissatisfaction is coming? Why do we say same time marginal disutility is also being created? Yes, it creates. Whenever you are purchasing a commodity, you are using a commodity, you have to spend money for that commodity. And money has some utility. So when you are spending money, you are losing utility for money. So, to purchase 1 unit of a commodity, you have to spend some money. And whenever you are spending that money, some utilities are being lost. And in this way, these utilities are created. So, marginal disutility is the utility lost or utility sacrificed by spending money to have 1 unit of a commodity. Consumer is always comparing what is his loss and what is his gain. What is his marginal utility? What is his marginal disutility? Consuming 1 unit of a commodity, what is gain and what is loss? Always comparing. So long marginal utility derived from a commodity is more than marginal disutility, consumer will not stop consumption, consumer will continue to consume. He will stop consumption, he will be in equilibrium when these two are equal, marginal utility and marginal disutility when equal to each other. If marginal utility is less than marginal disutility, that means loss to consuming 1 unit of a commodity by spending money is more than the gain by consuming 1 unit. So it is consumer's loss. Consumer should not enter into loss region. Consumer will not consume that much unit. Consumer is in equilibrium when marginal utility is equal to marginal disutility. This marginal disutility is the product of price and marginal utility of money. Utility lost by spending rupee 1 and price is how much rupee you are spending to have 1 unit of the commodity. So to have 1 unit of a commodity, whatever utility loss is the product of price and marginal utility of money. As because Marshall assumed marginal utility of money is constant, We can assume any constant number. We can assume it is 1. So if we assume marginal utility of money is equal to 1, then it is only price. Price into 1 means price. Marginal disutility is price. So you may see in your book that equilibrium condition is marginal utility is equal to price. Whenever you will say marginal utility is equal to price, you have to say when marginal utility of money is equal to 1. You have to say it. Otherwise, you have to say marginal utility is equal to marginal disutility. So if you say marginal utility is equal to price, you have to say marginal utility of money is equal to 1. So these are the two equilibrium conditions. Marginal utility is diminishing and marginal utility must be equal to price. Now see the diagram. This is marginal utility curve, downward sloping. If you are consuming more and more units of the commodity, marginal utility gradually declines. Marginal disutility is the product of two constant terms. Price is constant, marginal utility of money is also constant. Product of two constant is a constant term. So marginal disutility being constant, it is a line parallel to x-axis. It is always same. Constant means it will not change. So this is marginal disutility line, a horizontal line parallel to the x-axis where units consumed are being measured, and this is marginal utility. At point E, marginal utility is equal to marginal disutility. So E is the equilibrium point, and corresponding to that, OQ is the equilibrium consumption. Now the question is, what will happen if consumer consumes less than that? If consumes more than that, what will happen? If consumer consumes less than OQ units, OQ is the equilibrium consumption, less than OQ units is consumed, that means consumer will miss some surplus. To the left of point E, always marginal utility is more than marginal disutility. This lined region indicates consumer surplus. Here marginal utility being greater than marginal disutility, consumer enjoying a surplus. If consumer stops at any point, he will miss some surplus. He stops here, he will miss the next surplus. But consumer will not miss any surplus because its motive is to maximize his satisfaction, and he will try to consume the entire surplus. So no question of stopping at any point less than OQ unit. Consumer will continue to consume so long there is surplus. Line region indicates consumer surplus. Here marginal utility is more than marginal disutility. So long there is surplus, consumption continues, and here entire surplus has been consumed, utility has been maximized, consumer is in equilibrium consumption is okay. If consumes more than that, marginal disutility is more than marginal utility. Dissatisfaction is more than satisfaction from one unit. It is called consumer's loss region. This dotted region indicates consumer's loss region. Consumer will not enter into loss region. Consumer will not stop at any point in the surplus region. If he stops, he will miss some surplus. Only option, the point where mu is equal to mdu. Consumer's equilibrium at point E, where mu is equal to mdu, and equilibrium consumption. According to this diagram, OQ is the equilibrium consumption. This is consumer's equilibrium in case of single commodity. But keep in mind, actually consumer is not consuming only one commodity. Several commodities are being consumed. So next time we have to talk about consumer's equilibrium in case of multiple commodities. Today we have discussed consumer's equilibrium in case of single commodity only. This much today. Thank you.